All right, I had a chance to play Call of Duty on the Switch 2 earlier today. It was part of the Call of Duty Next event where Activision opened up servers for a bunch of different people. It seemed like there were a lot of streamers in there, people who were pretty good at Call of Duty with that in mind. But I did have a chance to at least play the Switch 2 version for a little more than an hour, and I wanted to give some of my early thoughts on, yes, what is a beta build of the game right now, but one that at least gives us an idea as to what we're going to be looking at with Call of Duty's return to Nintendo's platform for the first time since the Wii U with Call of Duty Ghosts, which I think was 2013. So 13 years ago. So we'll see how this one went. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button though, and subscribe if you're new. I also want to point out that this is the first time Call of Duty has returned to a handheld system, or at least in this case having a handheld mode, since it came out on the Vita as 2012 with Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified. And I'll start off with a positive. This game is significantly better than that one. So that doesn't really raise the bar very much. But hey, look, we're at a starting point here for that. So again, I got to play for a little more an hour. I did jump between docked and handheld mode and attempted to get footage of both. I say attempted because it's kind of difficult to get handheld footage with a twitchy shooter like this. 'Cause I'm also trying to look at the screen while I'm playing. Tabletop mode was a bit better, but nonetheless, I did get footage there. Docked mode, I did record at 4K 60 FPS, so you can set the video to 4K and 60 and should get a decent representation as to what we're looking at here. They were also cycling through game mode, so they kind of did updates, it seemed like every 15 minutes or so, and then different game modes would appear. So I tried to jump between multiple different ones, but I did tend to gravitate towards, oh, there's team deathmatch. I'll go ahead and jump into that. But there was one that I actually really liked quite a bit, which was gunfight. And in this case, it was 10v10, and you drop in, and they're done in different rounds. So it's like first to five for either team, and they'll just drop you in with random weapons. So you might go in with a sniper, and it might just be your fists in one round, and then you jump in the next one, and it's an assault rifle, and you have like a Desert Eagle or something. So I do tend to like Infinity Ward's takes on Call of Duty this year in particular. They are saying they're going to be trying to be more grounded or boots on the ground, and not have Beavis and Butthead and Ninja Turtles running around in the game. How long does that last? We'll see, because I understand the pull in terms of just how much money they can make by having a Seth Rogen inspired gummy mode, as we have seen that in the past. Must be quite strong, because I'm sure I guess there's just a lot of money to be made there. Okay, so with the Switch 2 version, it is parity across the platform. So while I was playing on the Switch 2, there were also people playing on the PlayStation, the Xbox, and on PC. The thing that I noticed and I thought was pretty cool is that with the Switch 2, it has the microphone on the top. So even in docked mode, if you just start talking, they will hear you and you communicate that way without having to get a headset and make sure you're good to go there. So it is nice in terms of the convenience factor, and no one seemed to have any issue with the quality of voice that I had through the microphone in docked mode while it was sort of off to the side. I was playing on my monitor, which is where I usually play when me and a couple of the other guys would play Call of Duty over the past several years now. I'll play on the Xbox Series. So it was a little jarring going to the Switch 2, mostly because when it first pops up, you see the visuals. And it's pretty obvious in this case. Again, they said it's a beta build and it's a little older, not necessarily representative of the final product. So I have some footage. It'll be interesting, I think, to compare it to what we end up getting later on in October to see if they were able to change any of this. But it does look lower resolution, especially if you're up close like I am with my monitor here. Maybe a little different when you're sitting further back, say on a big screen TV or something. You're like 8 or 10 feet back or something like that. But it seems like it's around the edges of characters, around your gun, anything like that. In buildings, there's like, they don't have any anti-aliasing, it looks like. But then whatever they're using to reconstruct the image or upscale it, it leaves a lot of artifacting around different things, especially when you're swinging the camera or when you just start running with your character. You can see it sort of, your weapon breaking up as it's moving back and forth very, very quickly. Little distracting. The image itself feels very grainy most of the time, I guess is the best way I can describe it. But because they have that image set the way they do, it is attempting 60 FPS. I say attempting because I would say it's there more than it's not. It does jump around quite a bit, mostly when there are a lot of people on screen. So I also did like 6v6 team deathmatch, and there were points where you and a bunch of your teammates would run in an alleyway with a bunch of other enemies, and then you would see things start to hitch and move around a bit in terms of that frame rate. And that indeed can be kind of frustrating in a fast, twitchy shooter like Call of Duty that will lean into some of the competitive side, you know? And so that's kind of what you deal with, at least for now in this beta for the Switch 2. Even the PS5 and the Xbox Series do have 120 hertz modes where they will aim for 120 frames or something. All right. So I'm sure people who are interested in the Switch 2 version may get it and then immediately just turn off crossplay, because I do believe, just from what I was playing, the Switch 2 version is at a disadvantage outright, whether it's the lower resolution, so it's kind of harder to see enemies further off, or the fact that they run at half animation when they're further off, or the fact that you may have stutters or drops in frame rate. A lot of this stuff does lean into the Switch 2 version having a harder time against really any of the other versions of the game. I will say though, handheld mode covered up a lot of those visual deficiencies that I was referring to before, and it actually looked better there. And even like frame rate wise, it seems smoother. I'm not sure if they were tapping into VRR or anything like that. I didn't really get any information conveyed to me. But the issue you run into with handheld mode, the Joy-Cons themselves have very limited travel with the joysticks, so it's actually harder to aim than if you have the Pro controller. So if you are looking at Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 for the Switch 2 and you're thinking about it, make sure you have the Pro controller for the Switch 2. I mean, the controller itself is already really good, but having the full sticks, it helps to actually aim and be able to track enemies when you're like aiming down sights or anything. It's just the acceleration for the Joy-Cons, because of the limited movement, it does not at all lean into, or at least help you out with Call of Duty. The auto aiming, or the aim assist they have, will be doing a lot of the heavy lifting there. That said, tabletop mode, Pro controller, it's actually a pretty good experience. And the only thing I would say that's kind of tough is, again, seeing enemies far off in the distance on that smaller screen. But if you're able to hold it up closer to you or get really close to the screen, it actually is pretty good overall there. And it's funny, it sounds like it's like the worst experience ever for Call of Duty. I guess if you compare it to the others, it would technically be on like the lower tier, but I think people are just kind of interested in seeing Call of Duty on the Switch 2, but then in turn also are interested in maybe more of a casual Call of Duty experience. And if so, the Switch 2 would work for it. And the convenience factor, going over to a friend's house, having your Switch 2, be able to just say, oh yeah, I'll jump on with you, even though you're on the PS5 or Xbox or PC. I'll just jump in your room and we'll run some rounds that way. There is mouse mode. I didn't get a chance to try that, although I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess if it is closer, we'll say closer to 60 frames per second consistently when the game releases, then I actually think that'd be a pretty good way to go about it. You would want one of those like mouse grips that I see going around and people buying, just to add a little more to the Joy-Con. You're gonna be moving that Joy-Con all over the place for a twitchy shooter like Modern Warfare 4. So you want to make sure you have a bit more to hold on to for the Joy-Con controller in mouse mode. I'm really interested. While I may not look at this one as, oh, this is the version I'd buy for multiplayer, I'm kind of curious about some of the other modes, because I see enough here with multiplayer to where I think campaign would actually be pretty cool on the Switch 2. And what they've shown so far with the campaign actually looks like a campaign I want to play, unlike the previous couple where it hasn't been good. And then I'm really interested in Call of Duty Warzone to see how that ends up on the Switch 2. And like, again, I'm thinking of more of the casual experience, which is usually what I think of with Warzone, but also the idea of having a big battle royale experience like that, having Modern Warfare 4, having the campaign with the multiplayer on a system that draws like 10 watts. But it's interesting to see Call of Duty make its return to Nintendo with the Switch 2 and actually put on a performance that is at least parity with the other platforms. This week is the beta for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, and then next weekend it'll be the full open beta that will have the Switch 2 included as well. So you can try it out for yourself. As I understand, not everyone's going to be as sensitive to frame rate or resolution as I or others may be. Who knows? Maybe as they get closer to the final release, they clean up some of the visuals, stabilize the frame rate a bit more. And if that's the case, I could see this and like actually being a primary way or platform for people to play Call of Duty going forward, especially maybe in handheld mode if that is your primary way of playing. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below in the comments. One thing I would have liked to have done, I guess it'll be more possible next weekend with like the big open beta, getting a bunch of people in a room and trying out game chat with the video feeds on the bottom while the system is trying to keep up with Modern Warfare 4 with the resolution and frame rate. That would be that'd be something to see, and maybe I will try that out then. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.